Thank you for joining us on the live report this Thursday afternoon. It's 12 p.m. Our focus is on the Parliament because we don't know whether the Prime Minister will be allowed to speak. As of this minute, he is scheduled to speak at 5 p.m. But he will not be speaking in the Lok Sabha. He will only make his address in the Rajya Sabha. Here are the headlines as we build up to the Prime Minister's speech today. Deadlock continues in Parliament. Will the opposition which blocked the Prime Minister's address in Lok Sabha allow it in the Rajya Sabha? Pakistan reiterates boycott of match with India. ICC asks Deputy Chair to convince Pakistan. Is Pakistan being persuaded now by ICC even after the blackmail? Back-to-back fatal game addiction suicides reported in different cities of India. Bhopal, Ghaziabad, Kerala. Should India consider social media ban for those under the age of 16? After SIT report proves adulteration in the Tirupati Laddu, Jagan Mohan Reddy claims charge sheet is closed. TDP says it's not. That fight continues. UK Civil Aviation Authority now seeks Air India's response on the faulty fuel switch. Air India says precautionary pre-inspection completed, no defect found. But the focus is on the clean sheet that has been given by Air India to Air India, by DGCA to Air India, even as the entire world asks questions on what really is going on. Good. Okay, so we're going across straight to the Parliament where the voting on the motion of thanks is underway, ladies and gentlemen. This is in the Lok Sabha where the Prime Minister was blocked from speaking. Let's cut across live.
हाँ वालों के पक्षमा प्रस्ताव स्वीकृत हुआ। मैं माननीय सदस्यों से आग्रह करता हूं कि वह सभागृह की मर्यादा को बनाए रखे, बैनर, तख्तियां, नारेबाजी न करे, आप सदन को चलने दें। बजट पर महत्वपूर्ण बजट पर चर्चा होगी, सबको अपने विचार व्यक्त करने का अवसर मिलेगा। आप सदन नहीं चलाना चाहते, नारेबाजी करना चाहते हैं, सभागृह का अपमान करना चाहते हैं, सभा की कार्रवाई आज 2 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
What a tragedy. What a tragedy. The Lok Sabha has been adjourned once again. The Lok Sabha has been adjourned once again. You just saw the speaker there trying to get proceedings underway in the Lok Sabha. He began speaking and then the opposition, which has been stalling the Parliament, for some reason they don't have any issue. They're coming to Parliament with an issue which is a non-issue. Let me go across to Ishita joining us live. Ishita, it's a deadlock. It's a deadlock. They're not allowing Parliament to function.
Right, of course, and Niranjan, it seems that the opposition has come out with a clear message to both the House of Parliament, which is of disruption. They're not allowing the House to function, to let Parliament be a decorum for a civil and democratic discussion. What they only want is that leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, in fact, was not allowed to speak. This is the point that they keep raising, and we've seen 2 times Lok Sabha has been adjourned. At first, it started at 11. Within 1 minute, the lower house was adjourned till 12, and now as soon as the proceedings began in the lower house, again the house has been adjourned. Now, despite requests coming in from the Speaker of the House to let discussions happen, because you see what happens is Prime Minister Modi's speech was stalled yesterday by the opposition. We saw a lot of Congress women MPs coming to the well of the House, gerrowing Prime Minister's chair, blocking the aisle. He was supposed to walk down, and therefore the House again got adjourned yesterday at 5 p.m. and today the motion of thanks was supposed to be passed without Prime Minister Modi's reply. But again, we are looking at a deadlock where opposition is essentially not allowing the House to function. It is holding the lower house hostage at this point, and no discussion seems to be happening. And even the motion of thanks, which was supposed to pass and to be followed up by a discussion on budget, could not be passed, it seems.
Yes. Now, what is the government saying? I mean, there have been different meetings between top ministers in the last, 24 hours on how to break this deadlock. They've been meeting different opposition leaders. Do we know about the different leaders who met today and what the strategy is ahead of the Prime Minister's speech at 5 p.m.?
Right, of course, opposition here has a message of disruption. Meanwhile, the Congress is sticking to its demand of letting the leader of opposition to continue his speech, where he is in fact quoting some books, unpublished books about an ex-army chief. While the ruling party has come out with a clear message to let discussion happen. Even in Rajya Sabha, we saw today Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju coming out, JP Nadda, who's the leader of the House in Upper House in Rajya Sabha, essentially coming out and just with one simple message. Let discussions happen, let arguments and counter arguments play out, and do not block the House. He also sent out a very clear message that under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, there is no such thing as discussions not being allowed. Everyone is allowed to speak. They also requested Congress leaders in the Rajya Sabha. They said it is a house of elders. So, Mallikarjun Kharge, who's the leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, he was requested by the ruling party leaders that let discussions happen, let the House function, do not hold the Parliament House hostage. And we're also expecting Prime Minister Modi to address Rajya Sabha at about 5 p.m. today. So that is a clear message that ruling party leaders has for the opposition at this point. And, after for a brief period, tempers were flaring up in the Rajya Sabha, but it seems that the question hour is now underway, and leaders have been allowed to speak from across party lines. You had Sanjay Speth, Rajiv Shukla, all of them have now been raising issues right from missing children, especially minors in Delhi, to even about the aviation sector. So while Rajya Sabha has been allowed to function, it seems the paralysis in Lok Sabha is continuing. For the past 3 days, we've seen lower house has not been allowed to function by the opposition, who is very adamant on their demand that why the leader of opposition was not allowed to speak, Rahul Gandhi, not allowed to speak. In fact, we also had a counter to it by Kiran Rijiju, who said in Rajya Sabha today that Rahul Gandhi was in fact allowed to speak for about 40 minutes in a Lok Sabha, but Congress remains adamant on its demand. It seems that we'll have to see whether the Prime Minister's speech, which is expected at about 5 p.m. in the evening in Rajya Sabha, will that be allowed to go smoothly by opposition?
Yeah. Harsha is also joining us live. Harsha has been tracking the developments. Harsha, in fact, it seemed planned yesterday, the fact that women MPs were, right up there, 8 of them, if we counted them correct. And the idea was to stall the Prime Minister's speech, which even the Congress very strangely acknowledged, saying that it is Priyanka Vadra who planned the entire thing. Now, how is the how is the government going to counter any such attempt today in the Rajya Sabha, if at all? I'm sure the government has thought that through.
So, Niranjan, opposition is very crystal clear that if opposition will continue to stall the parliament, and because yesterday there was a debriefing from the top sources, one of the top minister, he clearly stated that if the opposition will continue to stall the parliament, Prime Minister, like yesterday did in Lok Sabha, didn't reply, the same could be happen in Rajya Sabha if the opposition would not allow them. Highly today, the meeting was also convened, and the speaker also have spoken to the leaders of the opposition and the ruling party that the Rajya Sabha should be allowed to run smoothly before Prime Minister arrives and makes a statement at 5 o'clock. Because we very well know today the motion has been passed in the Lok Sabha without Prime Minister's reply. This is also very shameful on the part of the opposition leaders. How not one or two, several opposition women MPs, they were there with the banner in their hand. And Niranjan, this is against the rule of the parliament protocol. That clearly says there will be no placard, there will be no poster, banner in the parliament. But we could clearly see Pariniti Shinde, Varsha Gaikwad, the Congress opposition MPs, the DMK member of parliament, along with Priyanka Gandhi. Priyanka Gandhi was leading this, stalling the parliament in front of the treasury bench, in front of the very chair where the Prime Minister sits. And Prime Minister was not at that time, but with the banner and poster, all of them were standing in front of the treasury bench near to the Secretary General table, about to jump the well. These all were the scenes in the parliament yesterday. And the Om Birla, Speaker, today also stated that this way opposition can't behave. There's a temple of democracy. Thousands of people have voted for these parliamentarians to come here and make the point, to participate in a debate. But rather than doing that, every day Parliament is being adjourned. And today all eyes are on the Prime Minister's reply at 5 o'clock in Rajya Sabha, Niranjan, because today, again, if opposition will have the same sort of behavior, then might be the Prime Minister can also skip the Rajya Sabha reply as well. Then the business will move forward as it is already planned.
All right. So, thank you, Harsha and Ishita, for joining us. We will be live through the day on Parliament. It is a critical day. The Prime Minister will be speaking in what is going to be an extremely critical speech today, given all the allegations. Not sure whether he will directly respond to Rahul Gandhi, but certainly there will be a message for the opposition each time the Prime Minister speaks in Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, we broke a story of AI 132, a flight that was coming in from London Heathrow to Bengaluru, and a very major glitch was reported, and it is the exact same technical glitch that perhaps caused the crash of the Ahmedabad AI 171 flight. Air India has been pulled up this time by UK aviation authorities, and they've been asked a question about how that flight even took off from London, and how is it that Air India has managed to give everyone a clean sheet. So essentially the clean sheet that Air India has given itself and the DGCA given to Air India, now all of that comes under the scanner. It's strange that the entire focus is on Air India, while Air India itself says absolutely nothing is wrong and tries to blame pilots for this. In fact, Britain's aviation authority has specifically asked Air India to explain how the Boeing Dreamliner passenger jet, which was grounded on arrival in Bengaluru for safety checks, even took off from London in the first place on Sunday with that faulty fuel switch. That is what the letter says, according to different reports now coming in from the UK. The UK Civil Aviation Authority, or the CAA, equivalent of India's DGCA, has asked Air India that question, also warning of the possibility of regulatory action against Air India and its Boeing 787 fleet if the airline does not submit a complete response within a week. I have Captain Ehsan Khalid joining us on the broadcast on this very important story. Captain Khalid, it's strange that, you were there when we discussed that report that spoke of a faulty switch, possibly that led to the Ahmedabad crash. And now when a pilot claimed a similar incident on another plane or another flight, the attempt has been to cover up and admit, or rather pretend that everything is okay, than to do proper checks. Now, what do you make of it, sir? We've debated this. UK is now worried. India, for some reason, our DGCA, our ministry, Air India included, they're all pretending like everything is okay. How does this work?
Okay, very good morning to you and all your viewers. Very sad way of looking at such a difficult and such a disastrous accident that we had on AI 171. Number one, a fuel switch malfunction being reported by pilots at London should have actually got a IB board from India to fly down there and see it firsthand as to what the problem is. All the documents pertaining to the aircraft and to the maintenance of that aircraft should have been seized. The FDR should have been seized to see, because now there are not two dead pilots talking. There are 3 living pilots and probably 1 or 2 engineers who attended to that before putting that snag in the paper. So there are 5 technically qualified, trained individuals who said that there was a switch that moves from run to cut off when pushed slightly, that is without the intention of pilot. This is what the dead pilot late Captain Sumit Sabharwal probably said on the CVR, though I don't have the access to CVR, that I did not do it. That means the switch did move on its own. That's the pilot's dying declaration. Here, there are 5 living pilots who have, there are 3 pilots whose name I see on the tech log. Okay, so I would say that all these 3 pilots were on board and they would have seen that this is a problem existing. Then there must have been an engineer who would write it down there, and after some time the aircraft was cleared. It should not have been cleared. Now the second point is I hear from the public media that Boeing or a spokesperson of Boeing has said that the switch was not being properly operated. There was nothing wrong with the snag. Correct me if I am wrong in making this statement. Have you also heard this?
You're right.
That the switch was okay. That means Boeing now comes up with a statement to their own acceptance that if the switch is not operated in somewhat right manner, it can go to run to switch off. Now, it is such an important thing that it should issue a warning bulletin to the entire fleet, because it is to their acceptance that in some way, if it is wrongly operated, it will cause the fuel to go from run to switch off. Now, they haven't issued that, and the aircraft went on to flight. I don't know how will they stitch this whole blunder, because the fact remains that exactly the same thing could have happened on the last aircraft, where the aircraft was probably on the takeoff leg, and the aircraft on the takeoff leg. Let me tell you why these fuel switches are also guarded. Because when you are accelerating and when you have jerks on the runway, there is nothing that should move on its own. And if that is what has happened on Air India 171 and the switches were malfunctional, now we have pilots reporting that without much of effort from the pilot side, the switch moved from there to that place. So you will have that kind of pressure on the aircraft when it is running for the takeoff or when it is coming up for the takeoff run, because when you rotate the aircraft, all the objects in the aircraft go through positive G. Now that is slightest force that was being applied by the pilot when the aircraft was being started up at London. That means at the time of rotation, that force can come by the virtue of the aircraft being rotated, and the switch can move from there to run to off position, and that is exactly what might have happened. What I'm saying is, how could it be taken so lightly? All the statement of the pilots have to become integral part of the evidence and AIB investigation, and the whole discussion about what went wrong, should actually now be steered through with this new finding.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that, because it just matches, isn't it? Because you had in Ahmedabad fuel switch cutoff, this plane fuel switch cutoff that took off from London. In the Ahmedabad crash, from the recordings, the so-called recordings, they said, they claimed that the pilot said, I didn't do it, right? It wasn't me. Absolutely, or I didn't do it, or something like that. And in this particular case, the pilots are saying exactly that the fuel switch cut off. And it's not the first time that something like this has been reported. There are different videos doing the round. So it can't be that the entire world is wrong and just Air India and DGCA is right. There's something very, 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 very serious, ladies and gentlemen. Are we waiting perhaps for an accident to happen? God forbid. Our focus is on that question. Can we afford another aviation tragedy? And are we going soft on this entire Boeing Air India fiasco? That's it on the live report. Coming back with the live coverage from Parliament and all the other updates. Stay tuned.